So hey, today I'm going to draw Loon, and I worked with this picture a little bit before, and the center of the page is really about here. So I'm going to pick this is about the center of the page, right around that intersection. We're a little bit shifted touch left, but that's going to be my center of the page. It's going to be right on that. Where that back goes that way, and the neck comes up to the head, right? So just kind of give me some rough lines here, and as we go up we get a nice graceful sweep of the neck into the head, and it's a pretty easy transition to the beak, but there is one. You see a little hollow and then it goes to the beak, and we're pretty close there. I think we want to be up a little bit, and then we come back down like that. Have a nice graceful pull down chin down the throat. And so if anybody's ever been around loons before, they're like icebergs. So you see this bit of the bird that's sitting on top of the water. It's a really small portion of that bird. They're probably a big bird about under here. They're large, but they look like little ducks when you see them on the water. So as I look at what I'm doing here, there's not a huge amount of bird above the water. If you look, it's just barely a little bit kind of up in there. So now if I look, see, I did what I did on my original. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to take this down, and we're going to take this down, and we're going to make sure that this water line, because we look, we want to be down there. So yeah, I've got this. That's the back portion here. You can see where that comes in, and then there's this front shoulder kind of. You can see where that white line comes down like this, and then it goes back up, and then it comes back down into the water, and then we go like this. We put our water line right about here. All right, so I am filling the page here for sure. But you can see we get kind of like this, a little bit like that. And then we get a little bit like that. You can see there. If you look, they got a little, it's all black, but there's texture differences, right? So it's more of a tawny, downy, fine, feathery head. And then our eyeball is right about here, right about here. And it's just to kind of got a tiny little point towards the front. So that's there. You got a nice slender neck coming down here, right? And then we're going to come into that with that. So I'm going to pull and erase this line here because that looks like it got a little chunky on me. And we're going to keep coming here, and we have that. So we're going to have this nice pronounced line there. That's going to be alright, and it's coming here. And then we get a little, so if you look, we're kind of quartering towards us but looking away, so we're not getting a full-on profile. It's more of kind of a head-on look. So you've got basically it's like the breast of the bird here, and I want to do this a little more, try to be a little more accurate with that. So we're going to draw this and pull that eraser there. We're going to clean up some of this stuff because, as much as I do dabble a bunch of lines all over, you eventually want to get to where you can throw some ink on top and know exactly where you're going. That's the whole point of doing this raw sketch. So the neck's going to come down, and this back feather is going to go behind there. So we've got this back section is kind of pulled in by, you can see there's a line right here, and that's this line I'm making right here. Then this little less pronounced area is kind of back in here, and we'll get a little more pronunciation with it when we got a thunderstorm outside. Now thunder is rumbling anyway. We're in Florida, so the thunder just kind of rumbles. All right, so then we look at that, and then also as we're coming through here, I want to kind of just eyeball out where the reflections are coming, right? So what I end up doing is when I do my drawing, I always like to include all the things, like, you know, in this piece, I put all the reflection down in there. And, you know, in my t-shirt shots, sometimes the reflections don't pay off. So then I'll just do this, or I'll really kind of not detail it too much for the screen work onto a piece of clothing. But we're looking pretty close there. I am just going to end that at the water line there. Okay, and then I'm going to be like, all right, we got a little. So we want to kind of like see our lines here, and we want to kind of want to reflect how they come back here, right? This is going to kind of come up, and you got to imagine like ripples in the water, right? So we got a ripple here, ripple here, ripple here. The ripples are going to break up the work, and then see now then you get a little bit here, and that'll take us to where our head is, and then same way. And then we're going to be a lot of our colors are just going to kind of bleed into that water. So when we're all done, this water line isn't going to be as pronounced, because you look, it's very different color, you know, not very different color right there. You can see the line in a photograph. So what we have to do as artists, we need to make sure that we can make that definition happen, right? And that's part of catching it. So, you know, what I've done in this initial sketch was to just make a nice solid line, and I think that's a very acceptable way to go about it. So I like the head that I've done on this one better than what I've done in my past one. That's all about here. And now we got our guide here. We're just gonna. So I like taking just pulls that you can do with your, you know, with one motion. So I'm not trying to do a whole big long line at once. And especially if you can do something where you can curve it at the same time. So I can, you know, take this. See, I just look at it, I'm like, I'm still not long enough for the exact thing. But I'm not going to let that bother me, because I think we've got a good start on this one. And there, and then we're going to pull this one right over here. And we're going to do a little eye shape, because we have a little feet. And it's a very black pupil. And the fun part of drawing a loon is that bright red eyeball. It's just so cool. You're like monochrome, you know, black, white, and all of a sudden there's that red eye poking out at you. It's really cool. So there I've got my basically my beginning line work to it, and now what I want to do, I'm just going to do some detail work around the beak, because you can see it kind of does this long thing almost to the eye. And this goes down like this. So if we look, we've got like this little neck collar thing that's like right here. So we're gonna make it, I'm gonna pencil it in, and we make a nice curve on it, so we can, it kind of tells us that it's a rounded portion of that bird. It ain't going around his neck, right? So you put a curve in it, and it kind of tells us that it's curvy. So what it actually is a bunch of little rectangular-ish, circular-ish, kind of rounded rectangles or squares or spots that create like this little under chin necklace thing. And then we've got another thing on its back of its neck here, and you see it kind of starts here, and it gets up to about here, and it comes quite a ways up to the front. You can see actually in the reference point there's just a hint of white right there, so it's just opposite. I guess be like right here, like right opposite where that goes. But if you look at it, it's vertical white stripes on that black thing. So we're gonna do, I'm just gonna put some lines in here, and it's going to kind of give us what we want. It's like a bird barcode. All right. So that gives us those marks there to kind of, we look at our reference piece, we can kind of figure out how we're going to shade them. And when it gets to this kind of stuff now, I don't do any heavy line work within those. That's all shading that's dot, 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 dot that I do. So I'm going to get my my heavy liner out here. It's 1.2. 1.2. And I'm going to go over this line that I already made and just thicken it up, make it look nice and beefy. Because look at this tip. That tip is nice and beefy. So we just kind of run over that. So that's kind of the thing with art, right? We can do what we think looks good. It's like I'm not trying to make a photograph, because if I wanted to, all I'd do is I got a photograph. But I like to make our little artist take on the animals that we do, that I like to do. Looks like nice thick eyeshadow like on a Cleopatra. Alright, and then last but not least, I'll get this vast back of the neck here and tie that in. So we've got that. Oh, I'm going to do the waterline too. So notice now I left that thin go beyond him, and in my practice piece I left it, I ended it right there, and I didn't like that abrupt end, so I wanted to carry it. So I kept this thin line here, and we'll work with the little water texture in there. But I'm going to go here, and the nice part about something against the water like this is, yeah, it's going to be a relatively straight actual interface. But if you look at what this is on here, it goes around a little, down a little bit, and it goes up a little bit, and it comes down a little bit. So some of these details are on the All right.